A few years ago, I was working harder than I ever had. I was helping way more people than I'd ever helped, but if I'm being honest, I was totally exhausted and I didn't really want to admit it. And it's not because I wasn't trying, it's because nothing was really clear. It wasn't clear who we were serving, what we were trying to sell, or how we were going to grow. And that's when it really hit me. Most businesses aren't failing because of lack of effort, they're failing because of lack of clarity. And maybe you feel that way too. You're in a season right now where there's a ton of momentum, but nothing seems to be moving all at the same time. If you want to get clarity for your business, you probably need a strategy. And at its basic level, a business strategy is going to answer three questions. Number one is who? Who do you serve? Number two is what? What are you selling? And number three is how. And that's how do you get leads? And today we're going to dive into a strategy for your business that you can plug in right now. Let's go. So let's get into it. Let's begin to talk about what it looks like to actually develop a strategy for your business. So a healthy organization has 6 healthy systems: focus, strategy, cash, team, rhythms, and tools. And today we're going to be talking about strategy. Strategy answers 3 big questions. The first question is who. That is, who are you selling to? Who you're selling to is your target market. The second question we're answering is what, and that is, what do you sell? And what you're selling, that's your core offer. And the third question we're answering is how. Specifically, how do you grow? The answer to that question is your lead generation strategy. So let's start with who. And who answers the question, who is your target market? Now, the problem a lot of companies have with target market is they're trying to sell to everyone. And I get it, I've been there. You start a company and you want to do anything you can to succeed, so you listen to the market, right? And the market says, you should sell to us, you should sell to us. You start building all these products for all these markets, and before you know it, you don't even recognize your company. A call to all is a call to none. If you're trying to sell everything to all people, you're probably not going to sell very well to anyone. One of the best things that you can do as you develop a target market early on is decide not first who to sell to, but decide who not to sell to. I mean, think about it. There's 8 billion people in the world, and you're probably not going to sell to the majority of them. In fact, you're not even going to sell to 1% of them. So you need to first figure out, who am I not selling to, so that you can figure out who you are selling to. And once you do that, you have yourself a target market. Now, how do we actually develop a great target market? Most founders don't actually have a target market problem, they have a filter problem. They haven't filtered tight enough to convince themselves of who they're actually selling to. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at our filter funnel to help you develop your target market. So let's start with who. The first filter for your target market is pain. Yes, pain. You need to make sure that your target market has an extreme pain point. I've heard it said before, if there's no pain, there's no gain. If your target market doesn't have something that really, really hurts, then you're not going to have a sales pitch to be able to present to them. The second element of the filter funnel is access. We need to make sure that you can actually access your market. So imagine that you have people that have a super high pain point, but there's no way to actually call them or text them or DM them or email them. Right? If that's the case, they're going to be a really difficult market to sell to. So your target market also has to have some level of accessibility, that is, you can reach out to them. The third thing that every target market needs to have is income. Imagine a market that has a super high pain point, you can access them, but they have no money to afford your services, or when they pay for your services, they get really mad at you because they feel like they're being overcharged. If your market does not have income, cash that's accessible to be able to pay for your services, then it's probably not a great market for you. The fourth thing that every target market needs is direction. Now, it's not the direction of the individuals, it's the direction of the market itself. So think about markets that are actually growing. If a market is growing, then it's going up and to the right. It's the right direction. But imagine a market as a whole that's shrinking. If you begin selling to that market might be gone in 5 years, and you don't really want to build a business selling to a shrinking market. So every market needs pain, access, income, and direction. Now, let's just think about what it looks like if a market is missing just one of these. So let's look at pain as an example. Let's imagine that you have a market that only lacks for pain. Let's think about a market like people who want to start a podcast someday. So if you're being honest, you probably thought about starting a podcast at some point in your life, And maybe you have one, but most likely you don't. And if you don't have a podcast, then you're like thousands or maybe millions of other people who've thought about starting a podcast someday. The problem with that market is that they have a really low pain point, so they're gonna have a really low demand and really low pain to purchase whatever it is that you're selling. That is not a great market to sell to, therefore that is a no pain market. Now let's say you're trying to sell to a market that has a high pain point but doesn't have access. The problem at that point is you are dealing with what I would call a hard to find market. A hard to find market would be something like a CEO of a family business who never answers their cell phone and doesn't have any social. They might have a high pain point for whatever it is you're trying to sell, but the problem is they're never actually going to allow you to gain access to them. So that's an impossible target market for you to reach, and that is a hard to find market. And one of the big problems with a hard to find market is that you're going to spend more time hunting than you spend selling. Now let's say, for example, you find a market that has high pain point, has great accessibility, but they don't have income. This is what I would call an underfunded market. So think about, for example, brand new fitness coaches who have no experience and no clients. The problem with them is not that they don't have a pain point. You could probably offer some benefit to them. Problem is not that you can't find them. You can find new fitness coaches all over the place. The problem is they don't have any money. They cannot afford your services. Now, there are some really successful fitness coaches, but there are a whole lot of people who are just starting who won't be able to afford your services. And the problem with this market is that they love you and you love them, but they can't pay you. And that's not going to be a good market for you. Now, let's say that you find a market that has a very high pain point. They're accessible. They have income, but they don't have good direction in their market. That is, their market itself is shrinking. You just found what I would call a wrong direction market. For instance, a brick and mortar DVD rental shop. Think about that. This is a business that was booming 50 to 20 years ago, but now if you're renting DVDs, I don't even know if any of those exist. But if they did, that is a market that is shrinking. So even if you offered a great offer for brick and mortar DVD rental companies, they're probably not going to be buying your services for very long because the demand for their services is going down. Therefore, they have less income. Therefore, it is a shrinking market. That's a bad market for you. So the point of all this is that you don't want to sell to everyone. Make sure that you're selling to one market. And once you figure out one market, and especially you figure out who you're not selling to, using this paid framework, you can actually begin to get paid by selling to just one market. So once you decide who you're selling to, the next question becomes quite obvious, and that's, what am I actually selling? And that's when we move from target market down to core offer. So core offer is simply what you sell. And the problem that I see a lot of brand new entrepreneurs and young founders making is that they sell too many things. They might even pick one market, but they end up trying to sell 5, 10, 25 things. So what happens is you have a brand new founder and they're so excited about their new business and they begin to build and build and build. And as the market interacts with their products, they say, hey, could you tweak this thing? Could you do that a little different? Could you do this a little better? And they say, yes, yes, yes. And before you know it, they're selling 25 different things. And the problem is none of those offers are super compelling because their time is so divided. You have one person trying to sell 25 things and they're doing all of them probably fairly poorly. Remember this, one great offer is much better than 10 average offers. Now, I'd like to share with you how to build a world-class offer. So the first thing you want to do when you're building an offer is define the win. And this is not the win for you, this is the win for your customer. So the first thing that customers are going to be asking from your target market is, what is the win for me? They want to know, what is it that you're actually going to provide for me so that I can win? A lot of companies, they think about what makes me win as a company, but you need to think about what makes your customer win. And that is the bedrock of a great offer. You cannot have a great core offer without first answering the question of what causes your customers to win. Now, if you're having trouble figuring out what the win is for your customer, start with the pain point. What is the pain point for your customer? What is the thing that's keeping them up at night, that's frustrating them, that's preventing them from growing, preventing them from doing their work, preventing them from having a better life? The opposite of that is the win. So if they're having trouble feeling beautiful, help them feel beautiful. If they're having trouble growing their business, help them grow their business. If they're hungry, give them food. There are so many ways to develop a win for your customer and for your target market, but you first have to start with the pain. So after a customer gets an answer to the question, what is the win for me? The next question they're going to wonder about is, why should I trust you? So let's imagine you totally nail the win. You're able to say, this is the win for you, here it is, and they say, yes, you got me. But now they want to know, why should I trust you to do it? And that's when you need to show proof. Demonstrating proof effectively shows the customer why I can do this for you. And there's a few ways to demonstrate proof. One of the easiest ways is simply testimonials. You probably used Yelp recently. Why do you do it? It's testimonials. You are wanting to get a third-party opinion about that business. You want to figure out, should I go there based on other people's experience? And that's what testimonials do. Reach out to a few of your customers, even if you have one. Ask them for 2 to 3 sentences about why your business helped them to win. Put them on your website and use them in your sales process. Another way that you can demonstrate proof is by actually showing people your product before they buy. So let's imagine, for instance, that you build websites. Show people your websites on your website. Include links to these websites on your homepage so people can actually go look at the product. Now, can you do this with every single type of business? No, but there may be a way for you to give them a small piece. Let's imagine, for instance, you're selling food. You bake bread. Give people samples of your bread. Help them to experience how good your product is before they buy it. A third way to show proof is by coming up with a number. Yes, coming up with one number that shows proof. Let me give you an example. Our vision is to help our customers grow their revenue. That's their win. And our number is 15.5%. Last year, 15.5% was the average revenue growth rate for all the members of the arena. And that's a number that I can use to demonstrate proof as I'm talking with customers about why I'm likely to help them win. So after you demonstrate proof, the next question that customers are going to have is, what if it doesn't work for me? Everyone thinks they're the exception, right? Everyone thinks they're special, they're unique, they're the unicorn. And so what you need to do is you need to show them that the risk is going to be decreased. You need to guarantee the risk. Guaranteeing the risk effectively is going to reduce fear for them. You've already defined the win. You've already demonstrated proof, but now you need to convince them that their risk is going to be lower if they end up working with you. So how do you do that? How do you guarantee risk? Well, the easiest way to do it is to offer a guarantee. What does that look like? Well, we see retail companies doing this all the time. You buy something from Target or from Costco. You don't like it, you take it back, right? Sometimes it's conditional. That is, if you're not satisfied, you get your money back. Sometimes it's unconditional. For any reason at all, you can get your money back. That is a conditional or an unconditional guarantee. Now, you can do that with your company as well, and maybe you give the money back, but there's also different ways to do it. So think about this. What would it look like to say, we guarantee that you will get the win, and if you don't, offer a bonus? For instance, we guarantee your company revenue will grow within 12 months, and we're not going to give you your money back. That's one type of guarantee. But another type is saying, if you don't grow your revenue, we will offer free monthly coaching until you do. As a general rule, think about not giving people their money back and sort of discounting down, but instead figure out a way to value up. Give them something more that you would normally charge for that you can give them for free if they don't get the win that you promised. There's other guarantees as well. You can offer an anti-guarantee, which for premium products works really well, where you're effectively saying, we don't offer a guarantee. Our product is so good and it's so premium and there's such high demand that we never give money back. That is sort of a guarantee in itself. And then another type of guarantee even is offering a contingent guarantee. You see this all the time in the legal profession, right? You don't pay us a dime until we get your win. And you can offer that in a lot of service-based businesses as well. Until you get your win, you don't pay us a dime. But make sure once you get the win for them, they actually pay you. And that could be a great way to decrease the friction between a lead and a customer, is by making them pay you nothing until you actually satisfy the win for them. After you have guaranteed the risk, the next question they're going to be thinking is, how long does this take? And that's where you want to increase speed. Increased speed is all about delivering a win sooner. Now, you may have a very short sales cycle. So for instance, if you're running a bakery, people show up to the bakery, they buy a piece of bread, they eat the bread, and within a couple of minutes, they've actually been totally satisfied and you've delivered the win for them, which is eating something delicious. So that one's easy. You can just deliver the win fast, make sure fresh baked bread is always available. But what if your sales cycle is a little bit longer? So let's imagine you have a longer sales cycle. Let's say, for instance, you are a lawyer and you help write estate plans for your customers. Now, you can't write an estate plan in 1 hour. It might take a couple of weeks to go through the whole process. But what you can do to increase the speed, or at least how fast the process feels to your customer, is give them a really fast win. So let's make sure that sometime in the first 24 hours, they get some type of victory that helps them feel like this is moving fast and I made the right decision. Maybe you send them a gift basket or an email with a video from a previous customer talking about how satisfied they are. There's so many ways to sort of synthetically modify the feeling of speed, even if you have a long sales cycle. And the way to do that is by showing them a very quick win, super fast, right after they buy. So after you answer the question about speed, the next question they're going to ask is how difficult will this be? And that's when you want to increase ease. One of the best ways to increase ease for your customer is to think about your offers on a paradigm. Paradigm moving from do it yourself to do for you. Now, do it yourself offers are things that the customer has to more or less do for themselves. So imagine a book. A book is a DIY offer. That is, you buy the book and then you read the book. No one's going to sit there and read the book with you. If they did, it would be more of a do for you offer. So imagine that the author says, one of my new offers is I'm going to not only write the book, but I will show up to your house, I will tuck you into bed, and I will read the book to you. That would be a do for you offer. Of course, that would cost more. And this is what ease looks like. The more easy it is for the customer, the more you can charge them, even if it's for a similar offer where you do more for the customer. Customers are typically looking for more to be done for them, but you gotta understand, you can usually charge more for that as well. So after you increase ease, all that there's really left to do is offer an enhancement. You already have a great offer. What are a couple ways you could actually enhance the offer and make it even better? Think of it like the cherry on top. Think of enhancements like scarcity. If there's a limited supply of something, people are more likely to buy it. So if you run a clothing company, maybe for Christmas, you have certain colors that are only available during the Christmas season. And after they're gone, they're gone. That's scarcity. Now, what about urgency? Urgency has more to do with moving fast. If you run a company that sells some form of service, maybe you have cohorts and you only take on 3 to 5 customers at a time. Let your leads know about this during your sales process. As you're selling, let your customers know. I have 5 spots available and 4 of them are taken. I only have 1 left, and once it's gone, it's gone. That's going to help customers move a bit faster. Another enhancement is a bonus. If you run a clothing company, maybe someone buys $100 in clothing and you offer them a $20 gift card. It's something that they don't expect, but it's really going to sweeten the offer. And if you tell them that up front before the purchase, the likelihood of them buying is just going to go up. Again, enhancements aren't the offer itself. The first few things we talked about, those are the offer. The enhancements just sweeten the deal and they make it a bit better. But you got to remember, if you haven't first defined the win, there's no enhancement that can make the offer work. So this just makes the offer a little bit better than it might have been without it. Now that you built the offer, name it. Give the offer an actual name. It sounds silly, and it really does feel silly when you're behind closed doors thinking of a name for your offer. But when you see names in the wild, you really like them. They don't feel cheesy most of the time. They help give a sense of identity and essence to the offer. A really easy format for naming is you name the win and then a container word. For instance, the revenue, rev up, the marketing, accelerator, the hiring, sprint. Come up with a super simple name and it's gonna help people understand the essence of the offer. You put all this together, the win, the proof, the risk, the speed, the ease, the enhancements, and the name, and you have yourself a world-class offer. Now, there are a few bad boxes that you want to avoid. Things like customizing, making everything unique to the customer, or sort of, just being semi-convinced about your offer, or it depends, right? When people ask you what you sell and you say it depends all the time, or maybe we can do that, maybe we cannot. These are some of the bad boxes that don't form the building blocks of a great offer. A great offer involves defining the win. A great offer involves showing proof, guaranteeing risk, increasing speed, increasing ease, offering an enhancement, and finally naming the offer. When it comes to this type of offer, or a sort of, maybe, sometimes offer, which one would you buy? Chances are you're a subscriber to one of the greatest offers on the planet, which I believe is Amazon Prime. You can order something at any point at most places in the world, and you can get it on your doorstep within a couple days or even a couple hours. And guess what? Amazon figured out how to make a great core offer. Let me walk you through it. They defined the win. Get anything you want fast. They also demonstrated proof. We trust Amazon because they have world-class logistics. They also guaranteed the risk. You can cancel at any time and you can send anything back and usually get a refund. They definitely increase the speed. You can usually get stuff within 1 or 2 days, sometimes within a couple of hours. They also increase the ease. Amazon was one of the first companies to figure out one-click checkout. You don't have to click 25 times to get something. You click once or twice and it's ordered. Amazon also figured out enhancements. You get so much extra stuff when you sign up for Amazon Prime. You get movies, you get music, you get fast shipping. This is just a few of the bonuses that Amazon offers for their subscribers. And finally, they named the offer Prime. I can't even say that word without you thinking about Amazon. So if you develop a great core offer, like Amazon, make sure to check every single box along the way, and you'll make it impossible for your customers to say no. Once your target market is clear and you know who you're selling to, and your offer is clear and you know what you're selling, now you need to figure out how. How do I fill the pipeline and begin to actually sell this to customers? And that's where lead gen comes in. So I'm guessing you might feel like you have a lead gen problem. I'm going to propose that you actually don't. A lot of leaders of young companies think that they just need more activity so that they can get more leads. Now, while that may be true sometimes, most of the time, I think leaders don't have a problem with lead generation. They have a problem with clarity. And if we can figure out how to get them clarity and figure out the right lead gen strategy for their stage of organizational growth, that will actually be a whole lot more effective than just doing more of what already doesn't work. The lead gen trap I see a lot of owners and founders getting stuck in is just to copy bigger companies. So bigger companies often have a lead gen strategy that's been developed that works really well for them. And oftentimes influencers will sort of push that on you as the only way to do it. Well, this is sort of like a wedding singer who has one song. Can you imagine going to a wedding and hearing the same song over and over and over? If it's your favorite song, it's great. But if it's not a very good wedding singer. And that's kind of like lead generation. If you have a view of lead generation that there's one approach that will work best for every company, it's not true. There's a variety of lead generation options, and we need to make sure that the lead gen option that you pick is actually right for your business at this stage of growth. And we have to remember that survivorship bias is real. There are a lot of companies who have tried lead gen strategies that did not work, but they don't post any videos. You only see the videos and hear about the case studies of companies who have a lead gen company that 100x their company. So we have to make sure that we're picking a contextualized lead gen strategy for you. So the question that we need to ask with lead gen is not, how do I get more leads? That's actually a great question for later. A better question, what is the right lead generation strategy for this stage of the business? I'd like to introduce you to the lead gen stairway. And I believe if you follow this, based upon the size of your business, you will have a great strategy to begin to bring in leads contextualized to your business. So you're not just doing more activity, but you're doing the right activity. Step one is relationship. Relationship is all about talking to people who already know you. Now, when you start a business, and maybe you did recently, or maybe it was a long time ago, we all do the same thing. We reach out to people we know. You call your mom, you call your Aunt Lisa, you call someone in your life and say, hey, I started a business, would you consider buying my thing or trying my service? And of course they say yes, and it feels really good. But oftentimes we stop this far too quickly. We say, I've graduated, I've grown up, now I need to move to paid ads. Don't stop with relationship too soon. There's probably way more relationships in your network than you realize of people who can help you. One of the beauties of the relationship step being the first step is that it offers clarity. The relationship step is ideal for companies doing 0 to 500,000 in revenue. The main constraint that companies face here is lack of clarity. It's difficult to know exactly what you're selling at the beginning. You can write it down on paper, but until you start speaking it out loud, you haven't really made sense of it. So actually speaking it out loud with people that you know in a high trust environment and a low risk environment is one of the best ways to sort of clarify and sharpen your offer. And not to mention, the relationship step is wonderful because your close rate is probably going to be very high. When you're selling to people who already trust you, the likelihood of them buying, no matter what you're selling, is going to be a whole lot higher. Now, if I'm in this stage myself, here's what I'm doing. I'm sitting down with my brand new target market, with my brand new offer. I'm opening up my phone and I'm looking at the contacts in my phone. Now, you might have 500, you might have 5,000, but what I'm doing, and I'm going to shout out to my friend Gary V, who nailed this, you're going to lift up your phone, hit record, and film a video, and here's what you're going to say. I finally did it. I'm starting the business of my dreams, and I wanted to reach out to you, not to ask you to buy my thing, but I wanted to ask you if you know anyone who would buy my thing. And maybe we haven't talked in a couple of years, and I hope this doesn't feel super spammy, but I'm really excited about this. And maybe there's someone in your world who you can connect with me because I'm starting to fulfill my dream of starting this company. If you're interested, go to this website, go to this link, hit our socials, and connect us with someone who you think would be interested. Done. Film that video, send it to every single person in your phone, and before you know it, you're gonna have yourself a business. This is the first step of lead generation relationship. Step number 2 is visibility. And visibility is all about getting more eyeballs on your product or your service. I believe a great entry point for companies for visibility is 200,000 to 2 million. Now, you're already doing relationship outreach and you can stack visibility on top of this, but this is a great time to sort of expand beyond the relationship step. You started to work out your core offer. Now it's sharper, it's more clear, and you can begin to invite other people, strangers, for instance, instead of just friends, to look at what you're doing. Now, the main constraint at this stage is attention. You need more attention. And the main win at this stage is inbound trust. What you're trying to do is you're trying to build a relationship with people that you've never met. So as soon as they encounter the opportunity to buy your product, they've already seen your content. They already have visibility with you, with your brand, with your product. And so the likelihood that they purchase goes way up because there's sort of pre-sales call trust built in. And that's one of the ways you can begin to generate leads after you enter the relationship step and move toward visibility. Step 3 is prospecting. And that's all about having initial conversations one-to-one with people that you've never met before. A great entry point for this step is around 500,000 to 5 million in revenue. And you can stack it upon the previous steps, but right around this range is when you're going to want to start doing this. The reason is the main constraint at this stage of business growth is an inconsistent pipeline. You may have high months and you may have low months based on the previous 2 steps of lead generation. One of the things that prospecting does is it smooths out those months and it gives you a more predictable pipeline so that if you make X number of calls, X number of DMs, X number of messages, you're going to get Y result in return and your revenue is going to be a little bit smoother during this stage. Step 4 is acceleration. This step is all about buying attention for a system that already works. And I want to be really clear here. This is not a great place to start. Most companies think if I just bought some paid ads, I would double my business. I would triple my business. But here's the truth. Ads don't fix broken systems, they expose them. If you have a broken sales system and you begin to pay for ads, really quickly you're going to realize my system doesn't work nearly as good as I thought, and not to mention, you're going to waste a lot of money. At stage 2, you're getting a lot of attention because you're testing visibility. Once you figure out what actually lands with your audience, you begin to build systems for sales and marketing. Only after that does it make sense to begin to pay for ads and accelerate your lead generation. That's why it's great to enter the accelerate step at $2 to $20 million of revenue. If your company is doing less than $2 million in revenue, you probably have no business touching paid ads yet. You can get to them later, but build your way up to them and you'll have far more success at step 4. Strategy that fits best for the stage of your company. If you're at 0 to 500,000 in revenue, go with the relationship lead gen approach. And this stage, by the way, is all about building your sales spine. I know that sounds harsh, but think about it. If you just skip past the relationship stage, you miss out on some of those critical lessons that are going to help you learn to sell your product really, really well. Don't skip step 1. Step 2, if your company is doing 200,000 to 2 million in revenue and you haven't already, now would be a great time to start with visibility. Start to get some free content out there into the wild to help people understand who you are and what your company does. This stage is all about transferring trust pre-call. Make sure that you're bingeable. People can watch your content, so by the time they get on your intro call or your discovery call or your sales pitch, they already trust you and they're much more likely to buy. Step 3, prospecting, a great entry point, 500,000 to 5 million. This stage is all about moving from a persona to a process. Chances are there's a lot of people that buy from you because of you. But if you want to actually move away from that and make sure you can build a company that outlasts you, you need to begin to develop processes. And the prospecting stage is going to require that you build systems and processes to manage that stage of lead generation, which is probably exactly what your company needs at 500,000 to 5 million in revenue. The final stage, accelerate. A perfect entry point is 2 to 20 million. And remember at this stage, you are not going to your own audience. You're actually renting someone else's, and specifically you're renting leverage. You're saying, my main constraint right now is scale. I cannot scale fast enough with systems that already work, so I'm going to rent your audience and leverage those eyeballs to grow my company because my audience isn't big enough yet. Here's my encouragement to you. When it comes to lead gen, there's so much information out there and it's easy to get overwhelmed and over-impressed with a strategy that worked for another business that might be 100 times the size of yours. First, figure out how big your business is in terms of revenue. Then pick your step for lead generation and follow just that step for the next 90 days. And I can almost guarantee you, if you put everything into just that one step, sort of ignore everything else, you're gonna get new leads into the company that are perfect for your stage. Strategy is not about doing more. Strategy is about making a decision on what one market will I serve, what one offer will I sell, and what one lead gen strategy will I try. As your company grows, you're probably gonna have multiple markets, multiple offers, and multiple lead gen strategies. Pick one strategy, stick to it for 90 days, and what you'll find is that clarity is going to compound much faster than hustle ever will. Thanks for watching today. I hope you got just one thing that you can take away to develop your strategy as you grow your company. We're passionate at The Arena about igniting revenue growth. Continue to follow along and let's ignite your revenue.